15 spine-chilling true scary tales exposed. Unravel the haunted secrets of Reddit's darkness. Sarah stumbled into her home, the heavy door creaking like the bones of some ancient creature. The air felt thick, wrapping around her like a shroud as she dropped her bag by the couch. Another graveyard shift at the diner had drained her, but it wasn't the exhaustion that tightened her throat. There was something wrong with Longwood tonight. The streetlights flickered like dying stars, shadows leaping across the pavement, and a dense fog crept in with an unnatural hush. It was a typical evening, yes, but a whispering tension curled at the edges of her relaxed routine. All she wanted was to put Lily to bed, safe and sound. Moments later, the muffled voice of her daughter echoed from the garage, the only remnant of a carefree childhood. "Mom! Look at this!" Lily's tiny, innocent voice was a beacon. Curiosity piqued, Sarah shuffled towards the noise, the hairs on her arms rising in defiance of her unease. What could a 7-year-old find so fascinating in that dark cave of broken toys and forgotten memories? Upon reaching the garage, her heart sank. A dusty wooden box lay in the corner, half hidden under a sheet. Crossing the rickety floorboards, Sarah peered at the faded photographs protruding from it. Families, smiling with eyes that sparkled unnaturally, posed in front of the familiar but unsettling images of Longwood's cold, lifeless landmarks. Memories felt like shadows, taunting her from beyond the grave. Each grin seemed too wide, too knowing, a clockwork mechanism revealing a far darker tale. She shivered as a cold gust rattled the door, making it creak ominously. There it was again. That nagging, icy dread. "Can we keep it?" Lily asked, eyes sparkling despite the remnants of fear she felt lurking behind the schoolyard. Memories flooded Sarah. She'd heard whispers of disappearances there, of laughter that echoed in the wind, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. But she brushed off her daughter's fears as just a child's imagination. "Of course, honey. Let us take a look," Sarah replied, trying to sound reassuring. Yet, deep down, she felt like they'd opened a Pandora's box. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." She stared at an old photo depicting the abandoned school, its windows resembling hollow eyes, watching. Lily quivered, muttering about shadows creeping closer whenever they passed that aging edifice. Dismissive thoughts clouded Sarah's mind until the feelings around them thickened, slowly tightening like a constrictor around her heart. Cold drafts washed over them, bringing whispers of forgotten secrets, entwining their lives more tightly with the dark legacy of the school. Neighbors began to act strange. Nervous whispering filled the air, smiles tight and cloaked. Each creak of the floor seemed to echo like a warning. Something was happening in Longwood, something that clawed at the back of Sarah's mind. The line between sanity and paranoia threatened to snap. She felt it in her bones. The shadows moved, whispered, and then, one night, she heard it, a child's laughter, cheerful but wrong, trailing from the old schoolyard. Sarah gripped Lily's hand tight, her heart racing as she stared into the darkness, the shadows stretching like hungry fingers, ready to reclaim what was long lost. Why was she hearing that laughter? What invisible line had they crossed? They were pulled into the depths of dread, a reality that twisted and entwined them deeper into the night. The past would not remain buried. Would they escape the haunting echoes or succumb to the darkness? The wooden box now lay open, the old photographs glistening under the dim light of the overhead bulb. Sarah's fingers brushed against the brittle edges. Each picture felt like a fresh wound, screaming of long-forgotten stories. Shadows curled around her, the air thick with anticipation, as if the very walls were leaning in to listen. "Mom, look at this one." Lily pointed at a photograph that caught her eye, impossibly vibrant among the faded colors. A group of children played on the schoolyard swings, their smiles stretched, appearing almost too wide. It struck a chord in Sarah, an instinctive jolt of horror that surged through her. "Mom, they look like they're from a long time ago. Why do they look so happy?" Lily's innocent question hung in the air like a weight, but it didn't settle right in Sarah's mind. A chill rushed down her spine as the laughter echoed again, a haunting melody that danced wickedly with the fog creeping outside. "Come on, let us put it back," Sarah whispered, struggling to maintain her grasp on reality. She could already feel the specter of dread tightening around her neck. The vaporous whispers outside seemed to amplify, reaching into her home like icy tendrils seeking to dig deeper into her thoughts, but Lily tugged at her arm, her curiosity igniting like a flame in dry grass. "No. I want to see more." Her eyes sparkled, an innocent thirst for adventure, but Sarah felt her gut clench. Leaving the garage felt imminent, yet stepping back into the shadows of the past tugged like lead. The laughter was now louder, echoing on the wind, and it pressed against her ears urgent, frantic, and strangely sinister. Every instinct screamed for them to flee, but her daughter's fascination anchored them in place. "Lily," she said, voice trembling, "do you hear that?" The laughter morphed into a cacophony, each tone like an echoing shout from the depths of despair. Suddenly, the overhead light flickered and sputtered, casting long shadows that danced like frenzied spirits. Sarah's heart pounded wildly, each beat drumming a rhythm of fear in her chest. The air turned frigid around them as doors creaked open and shut in the silence, mocking them like invisible entities lurking in the corners. "Mom, I want to go to the swings." Lily's excitement erupted like a firecracker, but Sarah's body turned heavy, rooted in dread. The schoolyard was what every instinct warned her to avoid, yet Lily's innocence blinded her to the dangers that lay there. "We can go tomorrow, sweetie." She placed a shaky hand on her daughter's shoulder, wishing she could snatch away the encroaching sense of doom looming like dark clouds over them. But Lily was having none of it. "Now. I want to see." And before Sarah could react, she bolted out of the garage and across the yard into the night. "Lily, wait." Sarah's voice broke through the stillness, panic rippling through her limbs as she sprinted after her daughter. The fog swirled around them, engulfing their form, transforming the familiar into the nightmarish. How quickly the world could twist. The swings creaked in the wind, a ghostly serenade, shifting back and forth as if stirred by unseen hands. Shadows stretched long and deep across the ground, playing tricks on her eyes, and every step felt like it was leading her down a path that erased boundaries between the living and the restless. And then she heard it, the laughter again, bright and clear amidst the whispers of the fog. But it wasn't just a single laugh. A chorus of children echoed, weaving through the air, pulling Sarah deeper into the dark abyss. She reached the swings, her heart thrumming in fear. "Lily." But the laughter grew louder, now insistent, wrapping around her like chains. As Sarah scanned the playground, dread gnawed at her insides. Where was Lily? Then the laughter cut off abruptly. The silence was deafening. "Mom." The voice was distant, almost swallowed by the fog. "Lily." Sarah screamed, panic gripping her. She stumbled forward, eyes wide, chest tight with suffocating terror. What had she unlocked by allowing that cursed box into their lives? A figure appeared in the fog, small and silhouetted. A child's form, small and innocent, swaying back and forth as if caught in a trance. Lily. But instead of relief, an icy dread clawed at Sarah as she took a step closer, her mind spiraling into dark turns. Something far worse than she could ever imagine lingered between their innocence and the whispers in the night. The laughter returned, not from her daughter, but from the phantoms of the past, imprisoning them both in an inescapable web. What had they awakened? Why did the shadows seem to close in, eager to collect more souls? And what awaited Sarah in that cursed playground, lost in the foggy remnants of a long-vanished childhood? The night deepened, and it felt like the world was tightening around her. There was no escape. The question loomed, would they ever return home? Lily. The name tore from Sarah's throat, a panic-stricken echo swallowed by the heavy fog. The silhouette remained, twisting slightly, the child's form barely recognizable. Her heart raced, a drum pounding against the walls of her chest, blending with the ominous silence that surrounded her. "Where are you?" Her voice trembled, only partially steady as she took another step toward the figure swaying back and forth. Shadows danced around them, whispering secrets in a language of despair. Every part of her screamed to run, to escape the grips of history that wrapped around the playground like a noose. The child paused, head tilting as if in contemplation. Was it truly Lily? Or yet another illusion, another ghost from a time long buried? The girl took a small step forward, and for a fleeting moment, the moon peeked through the shifting clouds, illuminating the playground for a brief, haunting second. That it wasn't Lily. The child bore her own face, twisted in a way that sent ice coursing through Sarah's veins. Pale, wide eyes stared back at her, an empty gaze devoid of warmth, filled instead with a profound sense of longing. "Come play with us," she whispered, the voice sweet yet sharp as glass. The chill enveloped Sarah, drawing her deeper into a world that felt wrong, a world that abolished the innocence of childhood. The swing creaked louder, the sound twisting in the air like nails on a chalkboard. She stumbled backwards, terror gripping her heart as the laughter began again, swirling around her. "Join us." It beckoned, a cacophony of high-pitched giggles that rattled her sanity. "No!" she shouted, shaking her head, desperate to drown out the insistent calls of grief-stricken spirits. "Get away from me! Where is my daughter?" The fog thickened, clawing at her clothes, a living entity trying to pull her down into a whirlwind of shadows and mirthful wails. Just beyond reach, another figure emerged, this one older, with dark wisps of hair framing a face lined with silent tears. It was the ghost of a girl from the photo, eyes sorrowful yet entrancing. "Don't you want to play?" The ghost grinned, a wide, unnatural smile that filled Sarah with dread. Behind her, the laughter grew fiercer, turning into a monstrous sound, uproarious and chaotic. Her instincts screamed again, alive with survival, but dread pulled her into the paralyzing gravity of their joy. "Lily!" A frantic shout escaped her lips, the plea both a promise and a curse. Why hadn't she seen this before? The swings were not merely swings, they were instruments of a dark longing, memories fused with anguish, waiting to reclaim the innocent. The child was gone, swallowed by the fog, but the laughter remained, echoing in her mind, tearing apart the fragile hold on reality. The shadows wriggled like serpents, inching closer, inviting her into the embrace of the past one that had claimed so many souls. With a newfound resolve, Sarah turned to run, but the moment her foot fell behind her, a force gripped her ankle, a cold, skeletal hand pulling her down. "No! Let me go!" Desperation clawed at her voice as she fought against the grip. The laughter now turned vicious, cruelly joyful as it surrounded her, the ghosts reveling at the struggle, hungry for her despair. The air grew heavy, thick with memories of lost hopes and vanished childhoods. The chains of the past were tightening around her heart, squeezing away any remnants of hope. Sarah, the voice, once tender, now turned taunting. "You are one of us now." With one final, desperate surge, she pulled free, panic driving her forward, back toward the house illuminated only by the glaring light of the garage. But the fog chased her, a cold breath upon her neck, whispering of ghosts eager to have her join their eternal play. "Lily!" she screamed again, feeling the weight of time drag her back. Would she find her daughter before it was too late? Or was she, too, destined to be entrapped by the echoes of laughter and shadows watching from the darkness? As she reached for the door, uncertain of what awaited her inside, a shiver ran through her. One question seized her mind, the last vestige of sanity: what if the thing that awaited inside wasn't even human? And then, the whispers intensified, wrapping around her like chains. What had she brought upon them? What had they awakened in the depths of that cursed playground? Would the shadows finally reveal their true form? The door slammed shut behind Sarah, her chest heaving as she leaned against it. The shadows in the garage flickered in the light, playing tricks on her eyes. Every corner seemed to shade whispers, beckoning her to drown in the darkness. She stumbled forward, the musty smell of old wood and dust clawing at her senses, suffocating hope in her chest. Lily. The name slipped out, almost like a prayer, but no answer came, just the relentless tick of the clock that seemed louder than her own breath. Time was stretching and warping. Each tick felt like a demand, daring her to confront the truth of the void left behind. Glancing around, Sarah spotted the shadows deep within the garage. Cat-like eyes glimmered, wide and bright. She squinted, trying to talk herself into believing they were mere reflections, products of her fraying mind. But as her heart thundered against her ribcage, the shimmers began to take form. Suddenly, a flickering bulb overhead sent her nerves into a frenzy. The light blasted back into existence, illuminating a tricycle, wheels rusting beneath the weight of memory. The blue paint was cracked and peeling, decades of dust shrouding it like a shroud. It was just a toy, but it felt like a portal to another realm. She edged closer, the solitude of the garage amplifying her mounting dread. The air turned ice-cold, wrapping around her like a ghostly embrace. Shadows shifted, merging and detaching from the edges of her vision. They teased and taunted, drawing her gaze back to the tricycle. What if? Her mind raced, dark corners coming alive. The fog from the playground had seeped in somehow. What if those shadows were the remnants of other children, yearning for liberation? The laughter echoed back, this time louder, layered with sobs, tormented souls longing for release. Her skin prickled. What are you? Sarah. The voice was low, almost a growl, cascading over her like ice water. Join us. A figure sputtered out from the corner, a grotesque parody of childhood. It wore a smile too wide, eyes gleaming with both sorrow and rage. Let us play, Sarah, it urged, swaying as if caught in a dance only it could hear. No. She cried, stepping back, but her foot snagged on something behind her. Falling to the ground, she scrambled up, her pulse hammering in terror. The shadows shifted again, now forming strings that reached out to her, eager hands trying to grip her ankle as she regained her footing. Your daughter is lost too. The specter wailed. Help her find peace. Join us. Desperation flared in her chest. I want tea. Abandon her. She charged back towards the door, but the shadows surged, uncoiling from the darkness to become solid mass, wrapping around her waist, choking her screams. Stay with us, Sarah. They sang in twisted harmony, a haunting lullaby that soothed yet unsettled. With every heartbeat, the weight of despair pressed heavier, visions of the playground rising uninvited in her mind. Sensing the lights flickering above Wayne, she realized time was running out. What do you want from me? She screamed, an anguished plea that echoed in the hollow space around her. The figure grinned, body contorting into ghastly shapes, before simply hissing. You already know, don't you? The air thickened with malicious joy at her expense as the shadows tightened their grip, dragging her down, inviting her to join the brilliant chaos of laughter. She felt herself teetering on the edge of sanity, every instinct screaming to resist, not just for herself, but for Lily. Then, a sudden thought struck her. If she could confront the shadow of Lily's essence, perhaps she could reclaim her daughter. Raising her voice against the cacophony, she bellowed, I'll fight you. Not just for me, but for every lost child. With that, the laughter turned furious, a tempest of anger and despair swirling around her. And as she focused her energy to confront the void, something deep within the shadows answered back, dark tendrils curling ominously around her feet. Suddenly, a burst of light emanated from the tricycle. A beam of glowing light shot toward her, illuminating fragments of laughter and cries from the past. She caught glimpses of faces, some familiar, others strangers, horror-stricken yet hopeful. But then, a chilling voice pierced through the elegance of light. That isn't enough to save her or yourself. What awaited her beyond that light? Would she uncover the reality behind the shadows or lose herself in the everlasting abyss? The echoes of laughter now morphed into something darker, calling to her soul, drawing her deeper into their web. What horrors lay hidden where the light could not reach? The shadows pulsed, writhing like living creatures, hungry and twisted. Sarah felt the cold clutches squeeze tighter, her breath caught in a vice of dread. The light from the tricycle shimmered but flickered ominously, as if it too were undecided about facing the darkness. "Stay with us!" they cried again, their voices a haunting chorus that filled the garage with chaos. Each word stung her like icy daggers, drawing her thoughts back to darker memories. Her fingers tightened into fists, nails digging into her palms, grounding her against the rising tide of panic. "Lily!" she shouted again, desperation fueling her voice. But the shadows only responded with a cacophony of tormented laughs, echoing off the walls like the dreadful echo of a nightmare. Suddenly, the light flashed brighter. For a split second, she could see the faces of children caught in sorrow, their eyes pleading for release. A boy with dark curls, a girl with pigtails, and others who she couldn't recognize, faces etched with a mix of joy and terror, dancing in the air around her. They drifted closer, every ounce of their being drawn to the flickering radiance, a stark contrast to the grasping shadows. "Help us!" they cried, a blend of innocence lost and voices yearning for salvation. "Please help us find her. Your daughter is here too." The specter shrieked, its smile stretching too wide, teeth sharp and glistening under the dimming light. "Join us, Sarah. Embrace the fun." What fun! she thought, panic coursing through her. It was a wild, deranged thought, grotesquely mixed with the tantalizing allure of their laughter. Desperation surged through her. "I want to join your twisted games. I will save my daughter." Her voice was powerful, echoing against the rancid air. The hold on her slackened for just a moment. With a surge of clarity, she reached deep inside, grasping the essence of love that bound her to Lily. "I won't give up," she shouted, and the light pulsed in response, a rhythmic heartbeat beneath the suffocating shadows. But the shadows swelled, ready to devour her resolve again. They whispered promises, slithering into her thoughts, wrapping around her fears like vines. "What will you do when you find her? She's lost forever just like us. Accept it." "No." An electric bolt of determination surged through her. "You're wrong. She's here. I will find her." The light around her flared again, brighter this time. Fractals danced like fireflies in the air, illuminating the horror that surrounded her. And just past the shifting mass of darkness, she spotted a flicker of movement, a small figure in white. "Lily!" she cried, emotion breaking her voice. A shooting star shimmering beyond the veil of shadow. The spectre's laughter turned frantic. "You're playing with fire, dear. You'll burn just like the rest." Splitting pain in her chest, a deep, gripping fear took root. Above her, the bulb flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that lunged and then retreated. She squeezed her eyes shut against the chaos, focusing instead on that flickering light on Lily. In that fleeting moment, breath and heartbeat entwined, she pictured her daughter's face, pure and radiant beneath the shroud of darkness. Choking back her terror, she opened her eyes and let that image guide her, plunging deeper into the light. The shadows screamed. Confounded by her defiance, they recoiled as bright tendrils shot forth, reaching for the vision that danced just out of reach. "Return. You can find no peace." They howled, lunging and snapping desperately around her. Sarah felt their grip loosening as she drew nearer to the light. The specter grimaced, its shape warping in anger, limbs extending grotesquely as it reached for her. "You can't escape." It roared, but the essence of light pulled her forward like a magnet. The familiar scent of Lily filled the air, a sweet aroma cutting through the musty gloom. She stretched out her hand, heart racing wildly as she felt a tingle threading between them. "Mommy!" A voice broke forth like a bell tolling, sweet yet shadowed. "Lily! I'm coming." The moment felt electric, a rush. That ignited each nerve in her body, but suddenly, the room shook violently as the shadows wove tighter, pulling her back with a determination that shook her to the core. "Foolish girl! It's too late!" they screamed, as the world around her began to destabilize. That in a blink, the light flickered one last time. Had she reached it? Had she found her? Or was it but a cruel mirage of hope? As the fabric of reality began to fray and the spectre cackled above her, a shattering realization struck Sarah. What if all it took was one final confrontation? Just then, everything went dark. What awaited her in that abyss, and could she handle the truth within? Sarah floated in the darkness, the void swallowing her whole. Time lost meaning, seconds turned into eternities as her thoughts raced in panic. Where was Lily? Was she lost forever? The spectre's laughter still echoed in her ears, a chilling reminder that despair lurked at the edges. Lily! She whispered, fingers stretching into the abyss, hoping to feel even a hint of her daughter's warmth. Please, where are you? The silence around her thickened, oppressive. Her heart pounded like a war drum, echoing against the chamber of shadows. As her mind struggled to comprehend the void, images flickered in her memory, the way Lily's giggle blossomed like spring flowers, her laughter enveloping the house in warmth. That brightness felt light years away now. Suddenly, a tremor rippled through the air, the shadows shuddering as if sensing her fear. Do you miss the light? A whisper hissed, slithering around her like smoke. The sound was smooth yet cold, laced with malice. Shadows twisted into shapes, faces forming briefly before turning into grotesque masks. Stop! She screamed, defiant yet terrified. Get away from me! But their malevolent laughter surged, filling her mind with visions of twisted joy, playful games with no escape, endless loops of laughter chasing her into despair. The very walls of her sanity were crumbling. In the heart of the darkness, a flicker sparked, pulsing like a heartbeat. It grew, illuminating a figure ahead, a small silhouette clad in white, characteristic and familiar. It was Lily. Mommy! The voice reverberated, sweet but laced with desperation. It called to her, pulling her closer, awakening a fierce determination deep within. Hold on, baby! Sarah cried, moving forward, heart ignited by a fierce love. She lunged blindly into the glow. Just as her fingers stretched toward that figure, the shadows shifted again, coiling tighter around her limbs. No! Sarah gasped, panic rushing through her veins. Let her go. The shadows surged, a high-pitched whirlwind of serpentine whispers taunting her. What makes you think you can save her? She belongs to us, as do you. Their cold words wrapped around her throat, squeezing hard. Sarah choked, grasping for breath, memories of sighing darkness and lost innocence flooding her thoughts. Images of children snared in shadow danced around her, faces filled with despair. No! She bellowed, flames of fury igniting her spirit. I fight for her. For all of you. Her voice pierced through the darkness, resonating with power. A massive wave of energy exploded from her, scattering the shadows away. With renewed vigor, she pushed forward, channeling the love she felt for Lily into that flickering light. The shadows screamed, their forms distorting violently, but she didn't falter. Lily! She cried, reaching, stretching her fingers towards the light that grew ever closer. Mommy! Help me! The plea was laced with frantic urgency, yet around the shimmering light, darker shapes pulsated, starting to close the gap again, just as her fingers brushed the silhouette, an ear-splitting howl erupted through the void. Shadows congealed, pulling her backward, their voices rising in a menacing crescendo. Sarah fought against their grip, every fiber in her body screaming to stretch just a little further. Let me save her! She shouted, but her words fell into the clamoring darkness, subsumed in their roaring glee. There, in the heart of the chaos, as Sarah's vision blurred, she caught a glimpse of lily-wide eyes filled with fear, surrounded by the vile grasping shadows. They danced closer, ready to consume her daughter once more. Time slowed, each heartbeat a thunderous drum echoing in her ears, drowning out the cacophony. Could this really be the end? What will you sacrifice? Whispered the spectre's voice, ominous and chilling, pulling her focus. What will you give to save the lost? Choose wisely. With the realization washing over her, Sarah understood it wasn't just about finding Lily. It was about confronting the unimaginable and deciding what she was willing to risk. As darkness threatened to engulf them completely, a chilling choice loomed before her. Would she dive into that abyss, shattering the bonds that tied her to life? And just like that, the void cracked open, revealing a glimpse of the twisted truth lying within. What would she discover on the other side, and would it bring her closer to Lily or push her deeper into despair? The darkness split apart, revealing an endless landscape of twisted shadows that writhed like forsaken souls. Sarah felt the cold seep into her bones, an icy grip that tightened with every moment. Was this the cost? Each step into the unknown ripped at her soul, pulling her further from the warmth of her life. Yet, the spark of hope that illuminated her path was nearly within her grasp. Lily. The sound tore through the silence, a gut-wrenching plea. Her heart raced. The silhouette danced just beyond her reach, flickering like a dying ember. The darkness moaned, a chilling reminder that it thrived on fear. As she pressed forward, the ground beneath her feet felt slick, resembling the grip of 1,000 icy fingers. Each step surged with determination, but uncertainty flooded her. What lay at the end of this path? Answers, or something worse? Mommy, the voice wavered, the note of fear sending tremors through her heart. Desperation clawed at her insides. I'm scared. Just hold on. Sarah shouted back, pushing through the swirling shadows that whispered sweetly of surrender. The twisted faces emerged again, grinning with malice. They seemed to glide around her in a macabre dance, their laughter a siren's call. Join us, they hissed in unison, fingertips brushing against her skin. It's easier this way. No. Panic surged in her lungs, forming icy knots around her throat. She was losing her grip on reality. I won't abandon her. The shadows shimmered with mocking delight, shifting together to form colossal figures of torment and despair. You think fighting will save her? You're the one they want. You took her from us. Now it was Sarah who felt the weight of tears. Hot, angry streaks mingled with the cold, a sign of her resolve faltering. You're lying, I won't believe you. But then the spectre's chilling voice returned, soft yet sinister. What if your love is not enough? It caressed her thoughts like a phantom's touch, igniting her lingering doubts. What if it was your fault she's here in the first place? Images flooded her mind, memories of rage-filled arguments, a time before loss. The shame seeped into her, intoxicated by guilt. She faltered. The shadows tightened, sensing her wavering spirit, gleeful anticipation rising in their malevolent laughter. Panic gripped her heart, an echo of whispered torment surrounding her. Lily. I'm coming. In the depths of her horror, a glimmer pulled her attention. It felt like a heartbeat, steady and pulsing against the chaos. Sarah focused, clotheslined by pain and fear, realizing at that moment she had a choice. What if she had to let go of everything, her very essence? Captain of her own fate, drowning in shadows or paving a way toward light. What will you sacrifice? Echoed in the recesses of her mind, amplifying the uncertainty. Then, without another thought, Sarah lunged into the dark heart of despair, letting the shadows consume her. A scream caught in her throat as the frigid void enveloped her entirely. Just as it felt like surrender, a wave of power surged from her, tethered by an unbreakable love for her daughter. The shadows recoiled, their laughter faltering as she poured every ounce of her soul into a single thought: saving Lily. Mommy! The cry pierced the darkness, sharper than any blade. But as shadows twisted into haunting forms, longing danced dangerously close to desperation. And in that moment, when Sarah believed she could finally pierce the veil between despair and hope, a chilling truth dawned upon her like a fog rolling in. Shadows could blend with light. A cacophony echoed, a mix of laughter and cries merging into one grotesque symphony. What sacred bargain lay ahead? Just how far would she go to rescue her beloved child? As the shadows began to swirl and pulse violently around her, a deep, solemn whisper broke through the laughter. Are you ready to play the ultimate game? A new dread settled over her. What game? And would this one cost her everything? The shadows surged. They twisted and writhed, turning the air around her thick and heavy. Sarah felt each pulse of their malevolent energy against her skin, an unspeakable dread tightening around her heart. She wavered, fighting the instinct to recoil. The laughter sounded closer now, a cacophony of voices whispering secrets that chilled her blood. "Play with us, Sarah," the shadows beckoned. Each syllable dripped with a sickening sweetness, coated in malice. They promised delight, just for a moment, if only she would surrender her fears, and her child. No. She screamed, tightening her fists, feeling the raw energy of her love for Lily course through her veins. But even as she shouted, doubt clawed at her mind like 1,000 tiny hands. What if she was too late? What if they were right? She had hurt her daughter, pushed her away when she needed her most. The laughter crescendoed, rising to a fever pitch. Tendrils of shadow slithered around her legs, pulling her deeper into despair. Images flashed before her eyes, a grinning face, Lily's laughter transforming into cries of terror, the harsh words exchanged in anger. "Your love is flawed," the shadows hissed. "What if you're nothing without your daughter?" A stab of panic. The ground beneath her cracked, revealing a chasm filled with swirling darkness. "Lily!" She cried out again, her voice shaking. And then, just as fear threatened to suffocate her, a flicker of light caught her eye. It reflected against something metallic jutting from the darkness, a small pendant, bright and clear, nestled among the shadows like a star in an endless night. Lily's. The realization filled her with a surge of hope and terrified determination. An echo of who she once was surged to the surface, the mother who would fight tooth and nail to protect her child. That pendant was a piece of their shared history, a promise of love that could not be extinguished. "Yes. I will save my daughter." She lunged forward, knee-deep in the dark, reaching for the pendant, but the shadows lashed out. They twisted around her arms, cold and punishing, squeezing tighter with each passing second. "She's gone, Sarah," they taunted, their voices morphing into a chilling chorus. "You're all alone now." "No." With a guttural roar, she yanked her arms free from their grip, every ounce of her being fueled by the desire to save Lily. In that moment, she realized she was not alone. Within her heart burned a radiant fire. It pulsed in sync with the call of the pendant, resonating with a frequency only a mother's love could understand. As she grasped the pendant, the shadows recoiled as if burned by its brilliance. Her presence surged, an incandescent beacon driven by maternal instinct. The laughter turned to howls, panicked and shrieking, melting into the ether, but as the darkness faltered, a thunderous growl echoed from the depths of the chasm. A monstrous face emerged, molded from nightmares. It gazed directly at her, eyes gleaming with something ancient and terrifying. An entity of pure darkness, pulsating with the very essence of fear. "What have you done?" it roared, its voice shaking the ground beneath her feet. The shadows snap and crackle, surrounding her once more, desperate to pull her back into their depths. She could feel the weight of its power, the shadowy grasp surrounding her, stifling her breath. But in her grasp, the pendant glowed brighter, pushing back against the darkness. "Lily." Her voice surged with newfound strength. "I will find you." The environment shifted, the world swirling around her as the shadows pulled tighter, the creature's form looming ominously, hungry for her surrender. "Are you ready to make a deal, Sarah?" It snarled, twisting the edges of her fears into threads of compromise. "What would you sacrifice to hold her again?" She steeled herself, heart pounding. There was a cost, and the shadows danced hungrily at the prospect. How much was she willing to give? Just when the shadows threatened to engulf her entirely, they hesitated, recoiling as if anticipating her answer. Sarah closed her eyes, gathering courage and strength. The air thickened. One question echoed through the darkness, heavier than 1,000 chains: what was she willing to lose? And the voice of the darkness continued to echo: just how far will you go to reclaim your love? The shadows swirled and twisted, coiling tighter around Sarah, their whispers flickering, mercurial. She could feel their pulse, the heartbeat of darkness thumping in rhythm with her own fear. "What will you give?" they repeated, the chorus echoing inside her skull. Their voices stuck to her, growing heavy and suffocating. A terrible bargain loomed before her. The idea slithered into her mind, unbidden and unwelcome. Images of Lily's face, sweet and innocent, flashed before her eyes. Would she trade everything for a chance to hold her again? The thought made her gut twist. Step closer to the brink, Sarah, the monstrous entity rumbled, its voice a seismic tremor beneath her feet. It shifted, an amorphous mass embodying every nightmare she'd ever had. "Let go of what binds you, and all shall be free." She could feel it, the crushing weight of despair smothering her, the shadows hungry for her surrender. But nestled deep within, her heart spurred her forward. She had loved fiercely, fought against her own darkness. She could not let this beast dictate her worth. She would not barter with the void. "No!" she cried, defiance rooting her to the ground, the pendant flaring in response, lighting the depths around her. "I will not make a deal." The shadows recoiled, shrieking as if burned. For a fleeting moment, she stood at the edge of clarity, her heart pounding with determination. "You think you can twist my love? It's stronger than you." Enraged, the creature roared, a hideous sound that threatened to swallow her whole. "Then let us see. You will pay for your arrogance." Its tendrils surged forward, the darkness crashing against her as she clutched the pendant tighter, grounding herself in the memory of laughter, in the warmth of Lily's embrace. Suddenly, ripples of light shot from the pendant, encircling her. The shadows shrieked in fury, chaotic fear giving way to rage. "You can't fight this. You don't understand the price." "Then tell me," she shouted, her voice echoing in the darkness. "What do you want from me?" There was silence, a pregnant pause pregnant with dread. The shadows hovered, their forms shuddering as if considering their next words. "Your memories, your hope, surrender it to us, and we may yet hold her for you." A shiver ran down her spine. Memories? Each cherished moment with Lily was a thread woven into her soul. Would she barter away her very essence? Fractured visions of their times together flashed, bedtime stories, laughter, birthday cakes. "No!" she screamed, shaking her head violently, dispelling the thoughts. Each memory was a fortification against the terror around her. "I will not sacrifice my love for her." The being writhed, twisting in agony as its hold weakened. "Your resolve is foolishness," it bellowed. "But it matters not, for I have one more trick." Suddenly, the shadows shifted, twisting into long, dark tendrils that reached for her, forming ghostly images of Lily, her face twisted in fear, calling out for help. "Mommy! Where are you?" Sarah gritted her teeth, the weight of despair crashing down upon her. Each cry pierced her heart, raw and jagged. It cursed her thoughts, dominating her resolve. In that moment, she teetered on the brink of hopelessness. "Mommy! Come play." The images of Lily flickered as the shadows manipulated her desperation. "You promised." Time slowed, fear curling around her throat. The demon turned to her, exposing a gaping maw filled with dread. "Will you bargain now, Sarah? Will you sacrifice your sanity for her?" Breath hitching, she felt the world spiral. The shadows closed in, an orchestration of terror. The question hung in the air like thick fog. "Choose wisely. What will you give to save your child?" And just as quickly, a deafening silence fell, each heartbeat echoing in her ears, drowning out the shadows, leaving only her explosive thoughts. The light from the pendant flared as she faced the unimaginable decision, trembling in fear. Could she stand against the darkness? Would love be enough? The shadows surged forward with a wicked intent, hungry to claim her soul, while Sarah braced herself for the looming confrontation. Desperation clawed at her, her resolve wavering. As darkness enveloped her, the final question echoed, puncturing the air: "What will you sacrifice, Sarah?" The winds howled through the garage, swirling remnants of shadows that once felt so alive now reduced to mere echoes of despair. Sarah braced herself, heart pounding, standing before the malicious entity that loomed like an endless void. It seemed to revel in her hesitation, its monstrous face contorted in delight at her turmoil. "What will you sacrifice?" it hissed, voice a chilling serenade that seeped into her bones. The laughter of the lost children danced around her again, the sweet but twisted melody tugging at her memories, her fears, her love for Lily. "Will you give yourself? Your sanity? Are you ready to let it all go, to save her? Get away from me!" Sarah screamed, her voice raw, angry as fear swirled around her like a suffocating blanket. She could feel the shadows press against her skin, cold fingers tracing her essence, looking to pull her into the abyss. But she wasn't just a vessel for terror, she had fought through the depths of despair. She wouldn't let it win, she grasped the pendant tighter, its warmth beginning to burn against her palm. "I won't lose myself for you. I will not bargain." The darkness recoiled momentarily, the creature's face swirling in frustration. "Foolish mother. You think you can resist? You think, somehow, your love is enough. I know it is." The power of her conviction flowed through her limbs. The memories of Lily flooded her mind, laughter around morning pancakes, the sweetness of bedtime stories, their late-night whispers filled with dreams. Each cherished moment infused her heart. "I wouldn't abandon my child for anything." With that, a blinding light erupted around her. The shadows shrieked in agony, their forms dissolving in the wake of her clarity, their ghastly laughter fading into terrified wails. The pendant glowed brighter, illuminating the suffocating dark, pushing back against their insistent grasp. "Let her go," she commanded, voice bright and unyielding. The ground shook as the very roots of darkness writhed, the shadows thrashing against the radiance she summoned. She pushed forward, fierce and monumental, each step embodying every ounce of her relentless love. "I choose love," she bellowed, letting the energy flow through her, connecting her fiercely to Lily, to all the souls lost in despair. "I will bring you home." The cavern shook more violently, shadows swirling in frenzied disarray. In the heart of darkness, she spotted a shining figure moving just beyond the chaos. The faint outline of a child, arms reaching out, a shadow of familiar innocence. Sarah's heart soared. "Lily!" she cried, eyes locked onto her daughter. "I'm coming." But the darkness lunged, tendrils of dread trying to wrap around her, pulling her back with vicious intent. She felt despair claw at her heels, but the pendant pulsed like a heart, empowering her with warmth. "No, I won't give in. Lily needs me." With every ounce of strength, Sarah surged toward her daughter, the shadows tugging but never successfully gripping her. The light from the pendant blazed, illuminating the path ahead, burning through the last remnants of the suffocating darkness, illuminating a path to freedom. "Mommy!" Lily's voice, filled with hope yet tinged with fear, called out again. "I'm here, baby. Just hold on." The words burst forth, raw and full of raw energy as Sarah dove forward, arms outstretched, embodying the very essence of saving love. With one final burst of brilliance, Sarah lifted the pendant high, casting the power of love against the swirling shadows. Lightning illuminated the room, decimating the dark's hold. The shadows screamed, tearing themselves apart as if battling against unyielding hope. Through the chaotic maelstrom emerged Lily, her form glowing softly, innocence restored in a halo of light. "Mommy!" she squeaked, joy and relief flooding her eyes as they locked together. Sarah swept her little girl into her arms, warmth spreading through them, melding love and loss. "I found you." But the shadows, desperate to reclaim their prize, reformed, a last-ditch effort of insatiable rage and despair. They lunged, tendrils of darkness swarming around them, ready to snatch them back into the abyss. "No!" Sarah screamed defiantly. "You will not take her." The power of her love surged once more, roaring against the encroaching night as she pushed her energy into Lily, feeding her resolve, igniting a champion spirit that screamed back toward eternity. The darkness faltered, shrieking in anguish as the last vestiges of its power evaporated in the face of her unwavering love. Blinding light consumed the garage, washing the shadows away in a brilliant wave of purity, and weaving them back toward the forgotten corners of time, and in that blinding light, everything shifted. The moment stretched into infinity before collapsing into a burst of warmth. With a gasp, Sarah stumbled forward, rolling onto the grassy expanse of the playground. Morning sun streamed through the trees, welcoming her with gentle rays. She clutched Lily tight, their laughter intertwining, echoing blissfully through the playground. The shadows had retreated, whispers of torment silenced, lost to the radiance of maternal love. As the chilling wind subsided and light filled the air, they stood together in the warmth, the specter of darkness forever banished. "Mommy?" Lily whispered, her innocent gaze shining with sunlight. "Always, baby," Sarah replied, brushing her daughter's hair with gentle fingers, filled with gratitude for their reunion. They turned to leave, the playground now a realm of peace, laughter endlessly flowing through the air, a beautiful end to a night wrapped in shadows. Their reflections danced alongside them as they walked away from the hauntings of Longwood, toward a brighter future. If you loved this conclusion and want to keep the stories coming, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss out on our next exclusive tales that will send chills down your spine. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us keep the momentum going. FLOD the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. Let's get that conversation rolling. And Don T. Wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this wild ride. True fans understand the importance of your support.